The original Nioh had a great formula going for it. It featured the core Souls experience, but its focus was on providing players with more depth and options when it comes to combat. It was a hell of a lot of fun back in 2017, and I couldn't wait to jump straight into the sequel and see where the series would go. So, where did it go? Well, not too far at all. Nioh 2 looks and feels almost exactly like its predecessor, but with a few added mechanics. For the most part, this is a great thing, but at the expense of repeating some of the problems that were clear in the original. If you've played the first title, you'll know what to expect from this. Great combat, great customization, and a hell of a challenge. Just don't jump in expecting a completely new, refreshed experience. This time around, you create your own character through a fairly decent character creation system. This character named Hidi is half human, half yokai, and this will provide him with additional demon-like abilities in battle. Early in the game, you team up with a merchant and a demon hunter and eventually get caught up fighting in a war. Just like the first game, I was never really interested in what was going on at times and had some difficulty following what was happening. Many missions briefly introduced new characters with new Japanese names to remember, and it didn't take long for me to lose track of who was who, what they were doing here, and why they just disappeared for the rest of the game. I got the gist of what was going on, but I felt that there was a load of important information that went completely over my head, and this unknowing snowballed as the game progressed. And another thing, the game is defaulted to Japanese voice acting, and you can only change this option at the title menu. It took me until the end of the game to realize that it even had an English voice cast, which I definitely would have preferenced had I known it was available. I know that this is my fault for not checking every menu before starting a new game, but it is so unconventional to not either ask you or to default to English that I didn't expect there to be an option. Tell me, am I the only one out there that didn't pick this up straight away? The gameplay is where Nioh 2 truly shines. At its core, it is a Souls type game, but Nioh 2 combat is far more complex than you would find here. We'll start with the weapons. There are 9 weapon classes to choose from, with the hatchet and switchglaives being new in this installment. The thing that's truly impressive is the unique variety that you have with each weapon. Aside from your regular block, dodge, strong attack and weak attack, you can engage an enemy at a high, mid or low stance, and this completely changes the move set for each weapon type. For instance, high stance attacks will generally do more damage, but they're slower and they cost more stamina, which is called key in this game. Knowing when to use each stance and changing stances mid-combo is key to success in Nioh 2. Then there's the many unique passive and active skills that you can learn through each weapon's skill tree. There are a crazy amount of unique skills to learn here, and these complexities are why I chose to only focus on a single weapon. For the record, this weapon was the Tonfa, purely because the main character from Suikoden 2 uses this weapon, and Tonfas just don't get enough love in games. Loot management is another factor that plays a huge role in Nioh 2, and this can take up quite a bit of time. As you work your way through each mission, you will obtain a lot of equipment, each with many factors that need to be considered, such as its attack power, skills, weight, and added skills provided by equipment sets. If you're willing to invest the time in thoroughly examining every piece of equipment, transferring skills, and leveling up the best equipment, then this can be very rewarding. However, if you're not into this kind of thing, then maybe Nioh 2 isn't for you, because there is a lot of it. So all of the mechanics that I just mentioned were all seen in the original game. Nioh 2, however, adds on these complexities with a few great additions. Firstly is the ability to equip the souls of fallen enemies. This will not only provide buffs to your character, but will also allow you to use those enemy skills in battle. For instance, by equipping the soul core of the Yatsuno Kami, I could summon a giant snake to burst forward and attack enemies so long as I had enough anima stored. This anima can be gained by attacking enemies, and managing this mid-fight adds yet another layer of depth to this already complex battle system. I would have to say that this was my favourite new feature in Nioh 2. Burst counters are yet another new feature. Occasionally the enemy will turn red and charge up a powerful attack. Rather than trying to dodge this, you can use a little bit of anima to counter the move, inflicting massive key damage. This may seem fairly simple, but the risk reward it creates, particularly during boss battles, makes it a brilliant addition. But wait, there's more. Being half yokai really does have its benefits. Once yet another gauge is filled, your character can fully transform into a yokai for a short time, providing a new set of moves. This was a good idea in theory, however I never felt that it was implemented very well, as the gauge takes too long to build and didn't seem to last very long at all. Even so, for me, the crazy amount of options that this combat system allows for was the best thing about Nioh 2. As expected with any Soulsy type game, you're going to die a lot, and in Nioh 2 this becomes immediately clear. In fact, I felt that this game is up there with the toughest titles I've played in the genre. To start with, getting through each level can be a bitch. There can be places littered with unexpected enemies forcing you to stay on your toes at all times. For instance, you may jump into a 1 vs 1 battle against a yokai only to be destroyed by an onslaught of arrows from every direction. You really need to take things slowly, else you will keep on dying. To make things even worse is the new addition of Dark Realms. These small areas within each map are much more difficult to progress through as the enemies are stronger, plus your key regeneration rate is greatly reduced. These areas always gave me a "oh shit, here we go" moment when one was approaching, and as annoying as they could be, I loved them. Fortunately, if you're really struggling, you can enlist the help of up to 2 other players online, which makes the game very easy. You can also temporarily summon AI-controlled versions of other characters through these blue graves on the ground. This can sometimes be helpful, but at other times they're a liability. One of the big criticisms I had with Nioh 1 is how much the sloth skill broke the game, as it allowed you to slow down the enemy's movements, making it very easy to hack and slash your way to victory. Yes, the sloth is back, but it has little to no impact on most of the bosses. I used it religiously on some of the more difficult regular enemies such as the Karasu Tengu, which I like to call the bloody bird thing. However, even with sloth, I still managed to die way too often. When it comes to the boss design, I was in 2 minds here. I had the most trouble with the first 3 bosses of the game, as at that early point I didn't have too many options in combat. Here I felt that I had to learn the boss's movements inside out, and it was so rewarding to finally defeat them. The majority of bosses after this point were a lot easier for me. I don't know if it was a combination of me getting better, my character getting stronger, or just the bosses themselves, but I could usually go in with the same strategy and win in 2 or 3 tries. Nioh 2 is a huge game in terms of content. Progression works the same way as it did in Nioh 1, with several regions each having a variety of missions that can be selected on a map. These are either main missions, which have large maps to explore and each end with a boss fight, or sub-missions, which are usually just small sections taken from the main levels. Some sub-missions are even reused from Nioh 1. I think Nioh 2 did a good job with the actual layouts of each map. There are a good amount of shortcuts, secrets, and challenging sections to keep you on your toes. My problem here, however, is that the actual visual design of each map looks very similar. As you can see, most of the time you'll be working your way through Japanese-style villages, and I got sick of this pretty quickly. While the visuals look great, there were no moments that made me stop, look around, and admire the beauty, because, well, I've seen it all before, both this time and back in Nioh 1. This feeling of repetitiveness is further highlighted towards the end of the game with the enemy variety. This game is long, and I got so accustomed to taking on the same enemies and working through the same gimmicks one after the other. I know it sounds like I'm just complaining here. I really did have a blast working through the majority of Nioh 2, it's just that it does become repetitive at times. In the future, I want to see a shift outside of Japan and fewer main missions with more variety and unique characteristics. My feelings for Nioh 2 almost exactly mirrors that of Nioh 1, except that I didn't quite enjoy it as much because I felt that I was playing a massive expansion. The combat is hands down by far the best thing about Nioh 2. The amount of options that you're given in battle and the new additions is exceptional. There are also 1,000,001 ways to build your character. You need to think about weapon types, equipment, stat allocations, soul cores, active skills, the list goes on. You could play this game forever and the combat would still feel fresh. Unfortunately, the visual design will not feel fresh. As I progressed through the levels, I began to notice less and less unique characteristics, and the repetitive enemy types didn't help with this at all. Nioh 2 also had the opportunity to address the narrative criticisms of the past, but instead it fell into the same trap. I will no doubt buy Nioh 3 on day 1, but if this series is going to take things to the next level, these issues need to be addressed. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. What did you think of Nioh 2? Is it better than the first game? Let me know in the comments. If you like this, hit like and sub for more RPG content, it helps out a lot. See you next time.